There comes a moment in your life when you realize that chasing someone is not love, it's fear. Fear of losing them, fear of being alone, fear that if you don't keep giving, they'll walk away. And the truth is, the more you chase, the more you push them further away. Because when you constantly run after someone, you're silently telling them you're more important than me, and people don't chase what they already feel they have control over. When you stop chasing and start choosing yourself, everything shifts. Your energy changes. Your mindset changes. The way people see you changes. Instead of waking up wondering if he texted you back, you wake up thinking about your goals, your peace, your purpose. Instead of waiting for his attention, you start giving that attention to yourself. And that right there is where your power comes back. See, chasing comes from a place of lack. It says, I need you to feel complete. But choosing yourself comes from a place of abundance. It says, I am already complete, and anyone who comes into my life has to add to it. That difference is everything. Because when a man senses that you don't need him, but you're open to him, he starts seeing you differently. You're no longer someone who will accept anything just to keep him. You become someone he has to earn. You stop over-texting. You stop over-explaining. You stop trying to prove your worth. And instead, you start living your life. You go after your dreams. You invest in your growth. Spend time doing things that make you happy. And here's the part people don't realize: when you're genuinely fulfilled without him, that's when he starts noticing you the most. Because now you're not predictable. You're not always available. You're not sitting around waiting for him to decide your value. You've already decided it for yourself. And when a man sees that he's not the center of your world, he starts to wonder where he fits in. That curiosity turns into interest. That interest turns into pursuit. You have to understand something deeply. People are drawn to what they can't easily control. When you're chasing, you're giving him control. He knows you'll respond immediately. He knows you'll forgive quickly. He knows you'll stay no matter what. There's no challenge, no mystery, no reason for him to step up. But the moment you pull that energy back and redirect it towards yourself, the dynamic changes. Now he has to think about you. Now he has to wonder what you're doing. Now he has to question whether he's doing enough to keep you. And that's when chasing begins, not because you forced it, but because your absence of chasing created space for him to step forward. Choosing yourself is not about playing games. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about genuinely caring about yourself more. It's about understanding that your time, your energy, and your love are valuable. And not everyone deserves unlimited access to them. When you choose yourself, you naturally raise your standards. You stop accepting bare minimum effort. You stop making excuses for inconsistent behavior. You stop settling for confusion when you deserve clarity. And when you start operating from that level of self-respect, you create a standard that others must meet if they want to be in your life. And here's the powerful part: when you stop chasing, you give him the opportunity to show you who he really is. Because if you're always the one initiating, always the one fixing things, always the one holding it together, you never get to see if he's willing to do the same. But when you step back, his actions become clear. Either he steps up or he steps away. And either way, you win, because if he steps up, it means he sees your value and is willing to pursue you. And if he steps away, it means he was never willing to meet you where you are. And that's not someone you should be chasing anyway. You have to get comfortable with letting things be. Let him reach out. Let him make plans. Let him show effort. And if he doesn't, don't panic. Don't go back to chasing. Stay grounded in your decision to choose yourself, because the right person will never require you to abandon your self-worth just to keep their attention. When you truly step into this mindset, you become different. You walk differently, you talk differently. You carry yourself with a quiet confidence that says, I know who I am and I know what I deserve. And that kind of energy is rare. It stands out. It attracts. A man starts chasing not because you begged him to, but because he feels the shift in you. He sees that you're not easily accessible. He sees that your life is full. He sees that being with you is not a guarantee, it's a privilege. And when something feels like a privilege, people put in effort to keep it. So instead of asking, how do I make him chase me? Start asking, how do I become someone who naturally attracts effort? The answer is simple, but not easy. Choose yourself every single day. Choose your peace over confusion. Choose your growth over attachment. Choose your value over validation. And once you truly do that, you won't have to chase anyone. The right ones will come toward you, and they'll do it willingly, consistently, and naturally, because they can see that being in your life is something worth chasing. There's a powerful shift that happens when you stop bending your standards just to keep someone in your life. Most people don't even realize how often they lower their expectations out of fear of losing attention, fear of being replaced, fear that if they ask for more, the other person will walk away. But the truth is, every time you accept less than what you deserve, you silently teach the other person how to treat you. And once that pattern is set, it becomes very hard to break. When you set clear standards and actually live by them, you send a completely different message. You're no longer negotiating your worth. You're no longer trying to convince someone to value you. Instead, you're showing them through your actions that access to you requires effort, respect, and consistency. And that's where everything begins to change. Standards are not about controlling someone else's behavior. They're about controlling what you allow in your space. It's not about telling someone you must do this or else. It's about calmly deciding, if this is not met, I will walk away. That quiet certainty is what creates power. Because now, not dependent on their choices, you're grounded in your own. A lot of people say they have standards, but they don't enforce them. They say they want honesty, but they tolerate lies. They say they want consistency, but they accept excuses. They say they want effort, but they settle for crumbs. And the problem is, words don't create boundaries, actions do. If you don't follow through, your standards become suggestions, and suggestions don't command respect. When you truly stand on your standards, it might feel uncomfortable at first. You might lose people. You might experience moments of doubt. You might wonder if you're being too much. But understand this, clearly you're not losing the right people. You're filtering out the wrong ones. Anyone who is unwilling to meet you at a level of respect and effort doesn't belong in your life in the first place. And here's where it becomes powerful in relationships. When a man realizes that you are not going to compromise your standards just to keep him, something shifts in his mind. He understands that he cannot approach you casually. He cannot show up halfway. He cannot take shortcuts. Because if he does, he risks losing access to you. And that's when effort begins. Effort is a response to value. People naturally invest in what they believe is valuable. When you treat yourself like you're valuable, when you protect your time, your energy, your emotions, you signal to others that they need to treat you the same way. But when you're constantly available, constantly forgiving, constantly accepting less, you unintentionally lower your perceived value in their eyes. Setting standards also means being clear, not confusing. It means knowing exactly what you want and not being afraid to express it. You don't have to be aggressive. You don't have to argue. You simply state your expectations through your behavior. If you value communication, you don't chase someone who disappears for days. If you value respect, you don't entertain disrespectful jokes or inconsistent behavior. You align your actions with your standards. One of the biggest mistakes people make is thinking that setting standards will scare someone away. And yes, it might, but only the person who was never serious about you to begin with. The right person doesn't get scared by standards, they rise to meet them. They see your clarity as a guide, not a threat. They understand what it takes to be in your life, and they step up because they want to. And this is where the natural chasing begins. When a man sees that you're not easy to impress, that your attention is earned, not given freely, he becomes more intentional. He starts thinking about what he needs to do to keep your interest. He starts putting in effort, not because you demanded it, but because he knows it's required. There's also a deep sense of respect that comes from this. When you stand firm in your standards, you show that you respect yourself. And respect is the foundation of attraction. Without it, everything else fades over time. You can have chemistry, you can have connection, but if there's no respect, the relationship will never reach its full potential. You have to be willing to walk away from anything that doesn't align with your standards. That's the part most people struggle with. It's easy to say, I deserve better, but it's much harder to leave when you're emotionally attached. But that willingness to walk away is what makes your standards real. It shows that you're not just talking, you're serious. And when you operate from that place, you stop chasing validation. You stop needing someone to prove your worth. You already know it. You already believe it. And that confidence changes the way people respond to you. It makes them more careful, more intentional, more invested. It's important to understand that standards are not about perfection. No one is perfect. Everyone makes mistakes. But there's a difference between occasional mistakes and consistent patterns of behavior. Your standards should protect you from patterns that drain you, disrespect you, or make you feel less than who you are. When a man knows that you won't tolerate inconsistency, he becomes more consistent. When he knows you won't accept disrespect, he becomes more respectful. When he knows that your time is valuable, he stops wasting it. Not because you forced him, but because he understands that if he doesn't, he loses the opportunity to be with you. That's what makes it natural. You're not chasing him to act right. You've created a space where acting right is the only way he can stay. And over time, this builds something deeper than attraction. It builds admiration. He doesn't just like you, he respects you. He doesn't just enjoy your presence, he values it. And when a man truly values something, he puts in the effort to keep it. So instead of lowering your standards to keep someone, raise your standards to attract the right one. Stop asking, what can I do to make him stay? And start asking, does he meet the standard to be in my life? That shift alone changes everything. Because when you know your worth and refuse to settle for less, you don't have to chase anyone. The right person will see your standards, respect them, and rise to meet them. And in doing so, they will naturally start chasing you. Not because they have to, but because they want to. There's a quiet kind of power that most people overlook, and it has nothing to do with beauty, status, or even words. It's emotional control. The ability to feel deeply but not react impulsively. The ability to care but not lose yourself in the process. And when you master this, everything about the way people respond to you begins to change, especially when it comes to attraction. Most people lose their power not because they don't care, but because they care without control. They react to every message, every delay, every change in tone. If he takes too long to reply, anxiety kicks in. If he seems distant, they try harder. If something feels off, they overthink and over-explain. And without realizing it, they start giving away all the mystery, all the space, all the emotional balance that creates attraction in the first place. When you don't have control over your emotions, your behavior becomes predictable. And predictability in the early stages of attraction often reduces intrigue. If he knows exactly how you're going to react, if he knows you'll always be available, always respond instantly, always adjust yourself to keep things smooth, then there's no tension, no curiosity, no reason for him to lean in further. Everything is already on the table. But when you develop emotional control, something shifts. You stop reacting immediately. You start responding intentionally. There's a pause between what you feel and what you do. And in that pause, you regain your power. This doesn't mean you become cold or distant. It means you become grounded. You don't let temporary emotions dictate permanent actions. You don't let fear of losing someone push you into behaviors that don't reflect your true value. Instead, you observe, you process, you choose your response. If he takes longer to reply, you don't panic. You continue with your day. If he seems a little distant, you don't chase, you give space. If something bothers you, you don't explode or over-explain, you address it calmly, clearly, and with confidence. That kind of emotional stability is rare. It's incredibly attractive because most people operate from emotional extremes. They're either overly attached or completely withdrawn. But when you find that balance, when you can be interested without being desperate, engaged without being overwhelming, you create a sense of calm confidence that drives people in. One of the key elements of emotional control is not overinvesting too quickly. It's allowing things to unfold naturally instead of trying to force a connection. When you rush, Emotionally, you start expecting more than what has been built. You start reading into small things. You start placing weight on moments that haven't had time to develop meaning. And that creates pressure both for you and for him. But when you take your time, when you let things grow at a steady pace, you stay in control. You don't get carried away by every good moment, and you don't get shaken by every small uncertainty. You remain steady, and that steadiness creates a sense of mystery because he can't fully predict you. Mystery isn't about playing games or hiding who you are. It's about not revealing everything all at once. It's about allowing layers to unfold over time. When you control your emotions, you naturally hold back certain things not out of manipulation, but out of self-respect. You don't feel the need to prove everything immediately. You don't feel the need to constantly seek reassurance. And that's where curiosity begins. He starts wondering about you. He starts thinking about what you're feeling, what you're doing, what's on your mind. And the more he wonders, the more he invests. Because curiosity creates engagement, and engagement leads to pursuit. Another important part of emotional control is not taking everything personally. Sometimes his behavior has nothing to do with you. People have their own stress, their own distractions, their own internal struggles. But when you lack emotional control, you interpret everything as a reflection of your value. If he's quiet, you think you did something wrong. If he's busy, you feel ignored. And that mindset leads to reactions that can push him away. When you're emotionally grounded, you give room for reality. You don't jump to conclusions. You don't create problems where there might not be any. And that calm presence makes interaction smoother, lighter, and more enjoyable. There's also strength in not always needing to respond. Silence, when used correctly, is powerful, not as a tactic, but as a reflection of your independence. You don't have to fill every gap. You don't have to reply instantly to prove interest. You respond when you're ready, when it feels natural, when it aligns with your pace. And that creates a rhythm that isn't rushed or forced. When a man feels that you're not emotionally reactive, he becomes more attentive. He starts paying closer attention to your words, your tone, your energy, because now your reactions are not guaranteed. He has to earn them. He has to earn them. He has to understand you, and that process draws him in deeper. Emotional control also protects your peace. It keeps you from getting caught in cycles of overthinking, anxiety, and emotional highs and lows. You stay centered. You stay focused on your own life, your own growth, your own happiness. And when your life doesn't revolve around someone else's behavior, you naturally become more attractive. Because at the end of the day, attraction is not just about how you look or what you say. It's about how you make someone feel. And when you bring calm confidence and emotional stability into a connection, you create a space that feels safe, intriguing, and different from the chaos most people are used to. That difference is what makes someone want to come closer. It's what makes them want to understand you more. It's what makes them invest their time and energy. You don't need to chase when your presence alone creates that effect. You don't need to convince when your energy speaks for itself. You don't need to react to everything when your silence already holds weight. So instead of letting your emotions control you, learn to guide them. Feel everything, but act with intention. Care deeply, but stay grounded. Be present, but don't lose yourself. Because when you reach that level of emotional control, you don't just attract attention, you attract effort. And that's when chasing happens naturally, not because you forced it, but because your emotional strength created something rare, something that's not easily found, not easily understood, and not easily forgotten. When you focus on building a life that he wants to be part of, everything shifts naturally. Most people think attraction is about looks or words, but real, lasting attraction comes from energy, purpose, and passion. When your life feels full, exciting, and meaningful, you radiate a type of confidence that is magnetic. You become someone worth pursuing not because you demand it, but because your presence alone creates curiosity and desire. A man doesn't chase chaos or emptiness, he chases vibrancy, ambition, and fulfillment. The more you invest in your life, the more you invite him to step into it, and when he realizes what he could miss, the chase begins naturally. your life becomes a reflection of your priorities. When you are passionate about your goals, hobbies, and personal growth, he sees that your happiness doesn't depend on his attention or validation. That independence is attractive, however, because it signals strength and self-respect. He realizes that being part of your life is a choice, not a given, and that realization inspires him to pursue actively. You're no longer available just because he wants you to be. He must show up consistently and genuinely to earn a place in your world. That kind of dynamic shifts the entire energy in your interactions. It's important to understand that building a life worth joining isn't about being flashy or showing off. It's about authenticity, depth. It's about living in a way that aligns with your values and purpose. When you are invested in your personal growth, your career, your passions, and your relationships, you naturally exude confidence. That confidence is not arrogant, it's quiet, steady, and incredibly magnetic. Men are drawn to women who lead lives filled with intention because being around them is inspiring and energizing. This principle also extends to how you manage your social life and personal space. Surround yourself with people who uplift you, engage in activities that challenge and fulfill you, and cultivate interests that make you feel alive. When he sees you thriving, not waiting for him, he feels a pull not just to be with you, but to be part of a life that is abundant and dynamic. That pull is different from superficial attraction. It comes from admiration and a desire to contribute to your journey rather than distract from it. Part of creating this life involves having boundaries that protect your time and energy. When you respect your own schedule, your own commitments, and your own space, you show that you are not easily swayed by anyone who is not serious about being part of your world. Men notice when a woman is intentional with her life. They notice when she does not compromise her peace